Hi, this is Tom Mansmith. I want to welcome you to Double the Donations question and answer mini series, where we're going to answer a few questions about the matching gift process. So, what are corporate matching gift platforms and what role do they have in the matching gift process? Well, there are a number of corporate vendors who facilitate employee philanthropic giving. These technology providers work on behalf of businesses to streamline and to integrate the employee giving programs, which can include payroll deduction, matching gifts, volunteer grants, cause cards, and incentives and incentive programs. Generally speaking, these providers provide an online platform where companies are able to manage their employee programs. They allow employees to give to accredited nonprofits, log their volunteer hours, pledge their payroll deduction. On the back end of these sites, nonprofits are able to verify the gifts, the original contributions for matching gifts. They're able to see the donor detail. They're able to confirm volunteer hours. And these platforms really are an integral part of the matching gift program. It's not a business's core business, but it's part of their core values and employee engagement. And so these corporate matching gift vendors play a vital role in the matching gift process. So what's the general process flow when you receive a matching gift payment? Most matching gifts that your organization is going to receive comes from a corporate matching gift vendor who processes the payments on behalf of a company. So you're going to navigate to that third-party platform. You're going to go to the giving section, and you'll see a section for payments and transactions. And so once you're there, it's going to give you a list of all of the payments that your organization has received. Now, it's a good idea to have the check number, the amount, whether or not it was with check or a direct deposit. And when you're on that page, you can search with the payment ID and with the date so that you get the exact payment. And so once you found the correct payment, you can see that payment online. And so you can go through all the donor detail, which employees the company was matching specifically. And you can view it online, but you also have the option to download that reconciliation sheet. And so I recommend that you download the reconciliation sheet. And that's going to allow your finance department or yourself to be able to accurately process that payment. So what are some common roadblocks that nonprofits face in earning more matching gifts? That's a long list, but let's try to tackle a couple of them. I think the first one is leadership buy-in. Um, you should make a real case to your organization's leadership that matching gifts is a vital part of their overall revenue strategy. When it says double the donation, it truly means doubling a donation. And so I would make a strong case that to leadership that matching gifts is a vital part of their overall strategy. And what that unlocks for you, hopefully, is additional marketing and FTEs, which are critical for processing and marketing for matching gifts. The second thing is lack of staffing. And I think everyone is struggling with this since the pandemic. But If you're someone who is handling all of your matching gifts for your nonprofits, you know exactly what I'm talking about. As you begin to scale, you'll likely need additional staff, and without leadership's buy-in, that's a tough thing. But I think that having the appropriate amount of staff for the scale of your matching gift revenue stream is important. I don't think you need more staff than you should, but having the right number of staff. I don't know for your organization. I would imagine for smaller or medium-sized organizations that one or two people can do the job. And I think for larger organizations, many are stretched, but I would say that more than 3 people probably is appropriate for payroll deduction, volunteer grants, matching gifts, as matching gifts continue to grow. The next thing is marketing dollars. I think it's a real roadblock not to look at this both internally and externally. So communication dollars to train and socialize matching gifts internally to revenue or development staff that are running peer-to-peer events, that are, and that may be gala and golf and other types of fundraising, and your corporate development staff. If you have that, they really all should know something about matching gifts, so that when they see an opportunity, they're making sure that they're talking about matching gifts to the decision makers in companies, to team captains. The next thing is a hesitancy for organizations to ask for and maintain or retain corporate or employment information. If you don't know that someone works for a corporation that has a matching gift program, you miss the opportunity to tie their original contribution to that matching gift if they didn't do it at the beginning of the original contribution. And so asking for and retaining current employee information is really critical. And I know that you can get pushback from IT staff and from your event staff, for instance. They don't want something else on the registration page, but I'd argue that that employee information, because it allows you to actually fundraise for them, for the staff, peer-to-peer staff, I'd make a strong argument that adding who do you work for, or your employee information, is critical for registrations for peer-to-peer events in particular, but also on your main URL, your fundraising page. The next thing, and maybe this will be the last thing, is just really taking advantage of all of the technology that Double the Donation has to offer in the matching gifts. And what I mean by that is, I guess one is that you have a matching gift activation on all of your fundraising sites, and secondarily that you're utilizing 360 Match Pro to data mine contributions that hadn't been matched, but we can find that are meet the criteria for matching. So, hey, so how can I earn more matching gifts? I think there's probably 3 things that I'd tell you. The first is to socialize the impact of matching gifts with all of your developmental team. Show them the impact and the dollars that donors are leaving on the table by not matching gifts. In fact, I'd even point out some key donors that didn't take advantage of their matching gift program. That's a really powerful motivator. The second thing that I'd say is that you really ought to be taking full advantage of Double the Donation's technology, and making sure that all of your donation pages have the DTD matching gift activation on them, so that employees can take full advantage of that. The third thing that I'd say is that you should regularly check your database through 360 Match Pro, really looking for those donors who were eligible for matching gifts but didn't take advantage of it in the first round. That's a gold mine for your organization to be receiving additional revenue.
So let's take a look at buy-in from your team. Making a business case, an internal business case, with different stakeholders in your organization will advance matching gifts across the organization. And I think the first team that really needs to buy into matching gifts and the benefits of matching gifts are the corporate development staff. Those individuals who go out and talk to corporations about grants and cause marketing. And the third area that they really ought to be talking about is employee engagement, whether that's payroll deduction, but matching gifts is certainly a huge component of that. One of the things that matching gifts does is provide specific corporate information about employee engagement. Usually, the decision makers within an organization don't have a good idea of the level of affinity and employee participation, particularly for your cause. They may know in general what their participation rates are with their employee base, but specific to your organization, they don't. And so, what matching gifts will do is provide that corporate development staff member some very specific bullet points, talking points about your organization and the affinity of their employees. It'll show increased employee affinity. It'll show corporate engagement. There'll be some great impact stories that you can research and provide for your corporate development team. And whether those are anecdotal or specific, I think that storytelling is a huge part of the corporate development meeting. And then finally, it provides an opportunity for your corporate development team to upsell. If there's a big engagement with that company's employee base, that company is more likely to want to consider corporate grants or even a cause marketing deal. The second group within your organization is your peer-to-peer staff, so your event staff. And whether that's golf or gala, or maybe it's a walk staff, all of those gifts are matchable for participants who work for corporations who have matching gift programs. I think we're talking about 65% of Fortune 500 companies. And so what does that do for peer-to-peer? Well, number one, it's a lower cost of fundraising. So that second dollar, that double dollar that they're going to get, lowers their overall event fundraising costs. And I know in most organizations, that's a metric that leadership is looking at, lower cost of fundraising. And so matching gifts is the way to do that. The second is, and this is particular with buy-in, is showing the dollars that are left on the table. So a good project for you to do would be to take an event, take a look at all of the participants, do a little deep dive on those participants that were eligible for matching gifts, and then show the potential dollars that could have been had matching gifts been presented, and those are dollars that are left on the table. That is probably the biggest motivator for peer-to-peer teams, is to see what they could have had. And of course, you're offering what they can have. So that's super important. And then the final thing with peer-to-peer is that matching gifts allows for kind of a deeper dive into that employee profile or that donor profile. Now you know who they work for. That can lead to more teams. That could lead to a corporate team from that corporation, um, and maybe not just localized, but a national team. And so there's lots of opportunities that matching gifts uh, can provide. And then the third group that I would say would be the information technology team. I know in a lot of organizations that main page URL that where your fundraising page is on, that could be, and I know in a lot of organizations that's managed by the IT staff. And so one of the things that I found when we had point of contribution activation for matching gifts was that we saw a greater conversion rate, um, because when individual donors who work for corporate companies think about the fact that their company would double that donation, they're more likely to give. We saw an increase in the original contribution, which was great. We actually saw people going back in when we were doing the initial rollout. We were able to watch live those contributions, and people would actually come back in and raise their original contribution, and then go forward with the matching gifts because they knew that their company would be matching that contribution. And then again, also, and this is important for all departments, is that those donor profiles, knowing who that individual works for, is very important for establishing a good CRM. Not to mention the security, increased security, and API transfer. All of that is important to your IT staff.
So let's talk about communication. What are the top 3 communication strategies or that you might have for matching gift donors? And this is really critical. I think that I'm a big proponent of storytelling. And I think this is both true for pre-donation and post-donation. Um, Having a very concise story to tell about the impact of matching gifts, where the employer is acknowledging the donor's original contribution. And so the employer is recognizing the philanthropic choices of their employees. And that's a great partnership inside of that company. And I think that you can tell a story about what those partnerships, it doesn't have to be company specific, but what that partnership does, employer, employee, what that partnership does to advance your cause. I think that that's really critical. So be concise. I don't think that you have to be specific, but tell the story about the impact. The second thing is really take a look at generational appropriateness. Now, I'm a baby boomer, and I consume information in a way that might be different or is different than millennials or Gen Z. I think that you ought to take the time to learn about generational communication preferences. And so what do I mean by that? Well, I think that when you're creating communication, you should do something more than just an email or a flyer or a leave behind. I think that you ought to, as an example, um, maybe you do TikTok. I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you have Instagram or social media posts that can tell that story, but just in a generationally appropriate way. Um, and then the final thing is, I talked about this a little bit in storytelling, and this maybe is more true for your development staff that are engaging with corporate decision makers, but making sure that they have the information available to them to acknowledge the partnership that the employer partnership and the impact that that made on your cause. And now in this sense, I think that you can be specific. And so looking at total dollars raised by employees, total matching gift dollars raised by that employer, and putting that in the hands of staff that are going out to corporations so that they can tell the story about the impact, particularly with the decision makers and maybe in the community development staff of a corporation. I think that those are 3 communication tips that will pay dividends for you. Let's talk about what other fundraising opportunities that could develop out of matching gifts. I think there's probably 3, maybe 4. So let's take a look at those. I think the first one is corporate teams for your organization. My guess is that most of you have peer-to-peer fundraising. And I would look towards an individual who's on a team. Maybe it's not a corporate team, but you have their employment information. And let's say they work for a Fortune 500 company, Fortune 1000 company. Or let's say that they donated online on your main webpage. And when they asked to have their gift matched, you uncover that they worked for a major corporation. Those, I think, are leads for developing teams within corporations. They obviously have affinity towards your organization. And I wouldn't shy away from recruiting from that pool of matching gift donors who maybe weren't on a corporate team, but asking them to next year, let's say, to form a corporate team for one of your big peer-to-peer fundraising events. Second is cause marketing and corporate grants. And I know that this can seem like a stretch. You've got a matching gift. It was for $25 or $100, and now you're going to go ask for a cause marketing deal or a corporate grant. But hear me out. I think in scale. So let's say that you had 50 employees that contributed to your organization, let's say through a peer-to-peer event, and they all matched. And let's say that they've been doing it for a couple of years. What you have in that organization is a group of employees who have affinity towards your cause. And I think it's safe to say, possibly, that the people who make the decisions within community development, within corporate citizenship, within a corporation, don't have any idea that that's going on. And so raising that with those decision makers, I think, is the first step to start talking about other things that the company can do. It's their corporate money that's the matching gift. And so I think that it's the knock on the door. It may not be the meeting, but it's the knock on the door for upselling in corporate grants and in cause marketing. Because you can show the affinity of their employees, which, by the way, companies hold very highly, to begin to have conversations about how else your organization could partner with a corporation. And then finally, I'd say major gifts. And again, how does a $100 matching gift get a major giver? Well, I think you'll find if you look at your database that you may have people who are giving much more than $100. Certainly anyone who gives a $500 gift and is asked to match it would be a candidate for a major gift, certainly to pursue it and investigate it. And so one of the things that I would do is in your database, I would look at not just single donations, but annual giving of an individual. If you have people who are giving over $1,000 and then having that matched, I think that those are good candidates for pursuing them in larger gifts above $1,000, $5,000. They're obviously people who work for corporations. They may or may not have higher incomes, and those could be pursued by your major gift staff.